All right, so get this. We're going deep on crypto today, but with a twist. You know how every other project is promising the moon these days?
Yeah, it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack out there.
Tell me about it. But then we found KunaiKash, and things got, well, really interesting. This isn't just another coin launch. It feels different.
Definitely popped up on our radar, too. What was it for you in the research that stood out?
So on the surface, you've got your typical crypto stuff, blockchain, they call it KleverChain,
Yeah.
Kunai token, the drill. But then you see their revenue sharing model and, well, it makes you look twice.
Yeah, that's what caught our eye as well. Most crypto projects just bank on the token price skyrocketing. KunaiKash is trying to link token holders to actual project revenue. Instead of, say, betting on the price of flour going up, you're getting a cut of every loaf of bread sold.
Okay, now that's an analogy I can get behind. But break it down for me, like I'm five for your asked. How does the revenue sharing actually work? What's in it for me if I'm holding their Kunai token?
Imagine owning a piece of a bakery. Staking your tokens, that's like putting your slice of the bakery to work. The bakery makes money selling bread. You get a share of those profits based on how much you staked. And get this, the longer you stake, the bigger your potential slice of the pie.
So it rewards you for sticking around. I like that. But one thing that threw me, this Block Roar article mentioned KunaiKash investing in other DeFi projects. Isn't that, I don't know, a bit counterintuitive?
Ah, see, that's where their strategy gets interesting. It's all about diversifying their income streams. Rather than relying on just their own platform, they're betting on the DeFi space as a whole growing. Not putting all your eggs in one basket, more like owning a piece of the whole farm.
DeFi, for those of us who need a crypto refresher, what does that even mean?
Right, of course. DeFi stands for decentralized finance. Think traditional finance, but instead of banks or brokers, it all happens on a blockchain network. Lending, borrowing, earning interest, all without the middleman.
Gotcha. So KunaiKash is spreading the love, so to speak, across the DeFi landscape. And they're not just investing in any project, they're looking for early stage opportunities. Big potential upside there, right?
For sure, it's like getting in on the ground floor. And because these investments are funded by the platform's revenue, it's pure profit being reinvested, not dipping into staked tokens.
Makes sense. Okay, let's talk about this community stash of Kunai tokens they keep mentioning. It feels very Web3, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Crypto thrives on community, and KunaiKash seems to get that. This stash is specifically for community building airdrops, governance rights, maybe even real-world events. It's bigger than just the tech. It's about the people.
All right, enough theory. Let's get down to business. Did this revenue sharing thing actually work? Did they make money?
You bet they did. They've given out over $25,000 in rewards since February. Not a huge amount in the grand scheme, sure, but it's proof of concept. They've shown their model can generate real returns. Now the question is, can they scale it?
The million-dollar question, isn't it? And that leads us to, well, the potential bumps in the road. What could throw a wrench in KunaiKash's plans?
Well, crypto is, famous for being volatile. Regulations can change overnight. New tech pops up all the time. It's a wild ride.
That's true for any crypto project, but especially one trying to do something new like KunaiKash is, right?
Exactly. How well they adapt, how they stay ahead of the curve, that's going to be critical. And their transparency, how open they are with their community, that's huge.
Now that you mention it, one of the articles, I think it's CoinCrunch, they were talking about how active the KunaiKash team is in their community. Answering questions, addressing concerns, even doing those AMA things. They ask me anything.
That's so important, that open communication. In an industry that, let's be honest, can feel kind of secretive, builds trust, which is everything when you're talking about something as new and, let's face it, potentially risky as crypto.
And speaking of risky, this whole thing is built on KleverChain, which is a pretty new blockchain itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any red flags there we should be aware of?
So KleverChain, yes, still early days, which is, like anything, both good and bad.
Yeah.
Good, because it gives KunaiKash first mover advantage. They're one of the first big projects on there. Could mean huge growth if KleverChain takes off.
Okay, so bigger potential upside, but also maybe more unknowns than a more, I don't know, established blockchain.
Yeah.
Classic risk-reward trade-off.
Exactly. And that's why anyone looking at KunaiKash, or any crypto really, do your own research on the TAO behind it. Really important.
Solid advice for our listeners.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk competition. Crypto's a tough neighborhood. How's KunaiKash going to stand out? And maybe even more importantly, how are they going to deal with those, inevitable market swings?
Right. Well, remember that whole diversification thing we talked about? That's key.
Hmm.
Spreading their investments out across a bunch of promising DeFi projects. It's like they're hedging their bets.
So even if one project they've put money into doesn't work out, the impact on the overall, portfolio is smaller.
Exactly. Like a diversified investment portfolio, but in the world of DeFi.
Makes sense. But even with a good strategy, diversification, you mentioned regulations earlier, governments are still trying to figure out this whole crypto thing. How could that impact a project like KunaiKash?
$1 million question, right?
Okay.
The regulatory landscape is always changing. KunaiKash, just like every other project, they'll need to be adaptable, play by the rules if they want to be around for the long haul.
It'll be interesting to see how they handle that. But, thinking about it, that community-first approach they've got, maybe that's actually one of their biggest strengths. If they can rally their community to, I don't know, push for sensible regulations. That could be huge.
You're right. That's a great point. Never underestimate the power of a passionate community, especially in crypto.
So we've covered a lot. Revenue sharing, community, investments, the challenges they face. Let's bring it back to someone listening, thinking about maybe getting into KunaiKash. What are the key takeaways for them?
The big one is KunaiKash. Yeah, it's promising, but it's still early days. And it's a volatile market. Don't invest more than you can afford to lose, and always, always be cautious with crypto.
Good advice. Don't bet the farm just yet. What else should they keep in mind?
Take the time to really get it. Understand how their revenue sharing works, how the staking works, what's their long-term vision. Don't just take our word for it. Read their white paper, get involved with the community, make your own informed decision.
Yeah, got to do your homework, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And remember, crypto, it's like trying to sail a paper boat in a hurricane sometimes, Things change fast. You got to stay on top of it, be ready to adapt.
No kidding. It's been really interesting, this look at KunaiKash. They're really trying to do things differently with this revenue sharing and that whole community focus.
Yeah, it's refreshing, compared to all the flash in the pan projects out there, the ones just looking for a quick buck.
Exactly. But like we've been saying, any investment, especially in crypto, you got to be smart about it. Do your research.
Couldn't agree more.
So as KunaiKash goes forward, the big question is, can they actually pull this off? Can they make this revenue sharing thing work long term, build a new model for DeFi?
That, my friend, is the $1 million question. And you can bet we'll be watching to see what happens.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this. Imagine for a second this idea of shared ownership, really benefiting from a project's success. If that takes hold, what could it mean? Not just for crypto, but for how we think about investing, period.
No, that's something to think about.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and happy diving.